Tonight, we welcome Heidi Luv as she takes us down the rabbit hole of conspiracies, unusual ideas, esoteric exploration, and the occult decoding. All right, Heidi started her podcast journey. She named it the Unfiltered Rise Podcast to help share her exit journey out of the LDS Mormon Church after 34 years, you guys. On her fight to freedom, she became quite the researcher and found the occult beginning of the LDS Church. She now has a true love for Christ, and she declares that religion is not the answer. God is the answer. Yes. Amen. And I put her links down there in the description below, so you guys can follow her on Linktree and on Heidi's Spotify. So welcome to the show, Heidi. Good to have you. We've heard a lot about you. We have a lot of mutual friends. So glad to finally get you booked. Last show of the year here on the Dangerous Info Podcast.
Probably mine as well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, you know, and look at that. We talked about before the show started, technical glitches and all that. You had a little something there. Outcast had a little something. He's back on the laptop, so awesome. Everything is running smooth and ready to go. So, Outcast, any words here for Heidi as we open up?
Heidi, I think you got the gist of how I feel about you in the prayer that I mentioned, but thank you so much for being courageous enough to leave the Mormon Church, which I'm sure is difficult because, you know, it's family, it's friends, there's a lot of working components to it. So that takes courage. To take the anointing of God on and just go into the world and present what you've learned to other people, that takes courage. So we thank you so much for just being a bold and strong person in this battle, and we value that very much. And so welcome to the show. We love you as a sister already.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate everybody too commenting. So thank you.
Yeah, they're having a good time. And as we get going, I'll be putting these in the chats, you know, as much as I can. So, wow, where do we start? We have, like I said, we have so many mutual friends, and you know, it's just natural that we got together like this. And first of all, how's this 2025 year been for you, Heidi, and your show and you know, people you've been able to reach? How did everything go for you?
Well, anytime I get a chance to talk to people and tell my story, even if it's, you know, the person you think it will never touch, I try to do that because I was that person for a long time. Mm-hmm. Not that I wasn't a Christian, right? I thought I had all the answers. That was even a bigger problem, I think, than a non-believer. I think that was harder. So shout out to my mom. She's always watching. And she, you know, was my rock then and planted the mustard seeds that eventually led me out. And if she hadn't, I don't know where I'd be. So,
wow,
that was important.
You said your mother is watching. Is she in the chat room somewhere?
Always. She probably is. Yeah.
Awesome.
Mom, if you're there, say hi. Sorry, I don't see it, but you know, she's great and she watches everything, and she's the one that named me Heidi Luv. So
perfect. Perfect. Well, you did good job there, Mom.
Yeah. You know, everybody always says, "Oh, how'd you choose that crazy podcast name?" I'm like, "Oh, at birth."
Yeah.
My mom did. Like,
great.
Hippies, you know.
Well, where did you grow up at? I mean, I know geographically where it's typical where we'll find the Mormons and all this stuff.
That's where I am. Yep. Okay. I'm in Utah. I still am in Utah. I am 20 miles from Salt Lake City, probably ish. And I am still here. There is not really a way for us to exit because our year was blessed. We have another grandson this year. We have another grandson that's 1 and change. And we just wouldn't leave any of the regular kids and the grandkids. Like, our family's rooted here, and my mom is here, and we just have a lot of family. His parents are here. So we can't really leave. People always say, well, you're crazy to stay. I mean, won't they find you or, you know, whatever? And I'm like, well, I'm sure they know all about me. Yeah. I mean,
excellent.
You know,
excellent.
Three-letter agencies and Mormons.
Yeah. You know, well, we've talked to quite a few people, I guess, in the past on the show that they're also, you know, come from Mormon, that Mormon background. Some are still there. Some are not. And some of them have podcasts and some don't. So, you know, it's kind of crazy how I never set out to, you know, this was really not on our radar. Right. But it just kind of worked its way out, right. That to the microphones. And, we appreciate that because we've learned so much from other people, you know, who kind of, I guess, similar to what you've gone through, Heidi, but I can't wait to get into your presentation. You can lay it all out, because it's going to be great.
Absolutely. And before I do, if you guys have any questions for me, just like I said, stop me. I don't know if I'll be able to see you or not. Some platforms I can, but I can go in and out of this without it. I mean, I lived it. So.
Yeah. And you know what, if you don't, I mean, I know you have a presentation that you're well used to and everything, but we're laid back here. We take everything as, as it comes. We're live, we're having conversation here, so.
Oh yeah.
Anything, Outcast, that you want to ask before she gets going with this presentation?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I did have a question a minute ago, but it's eluded me at the moment. But the Mormon thing is fascinating because as a Christian, we've heard things that we found odd or silly, magic goggles and magic underwear and that kind of stuff. But then as truth seekers, we've gotten deeper into it, and I found some videos of people who claim that they were high up in the Mormon Church and high up in Freemasonry, and they said that at the 33rd degree level and at the highest levels of the Mormon Church, there is worship of the same deity going on, and it's not Yahweh. So I find that stuff fascinating. I don't want to alienate anybody that's a Mormon out there. I know that they've got great reputation of being warm and friendly people. We're not trying to alienate anyone. Jesse and I are dyed-in-the-wool truth seekers. We're looking to uncover what's wrong with all religions as we hotly pursue a relationship with Jesus. I'm just sorry, Heidi, I went into making a statement, not a question. So for anybody listening right now, we're not trying to pick on your religion. We ask very earnestly, though, if you get defensive over the things that we discuss here, is your identity in Christ, or is your identity in the religion that you practice? They're two different things. Is your identity in being a Baptist, or is your identity in being a Catholic or a Mormon? And you get bristly if anybody comes even close to questioning something that's going on in organized religion. I'm sorry, we're not for you in this podcast. We love Jesus, but we're asking questions about everything established here. So I just want to say that off the bat. But Heidi, thank you for what you bring to the table. I know it's going to be good, and I'll shut up for a while.
No, you guys don't have to shut up. I like conversations. And I do want to say that before we get into the presentation, people always tell me a couple things. You leave the church, but you can't leave it alone. That's their favorite one to say. And I always tell people, okay, if you made it off the Titanic, let's say, and you had the lifeboat and you had plenty of room, would you just chill back and watch everybody drown? Because I know I wouldn't. I couldn't. And I couldn't live with myself if I did that. And that's basically what's happening here. But there's a second part of it, is that, this isn't about the normal people. I like to say as a joke, they're porch Mormons because, porch Masons have to fill in the gaps between the high level knowing, right? It's the uninitiated again. And there are so many nice, kind, wonderful Mormon people that have zero idea what I'm going to tell you today, which is why I bring slides, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And most everything I get and present to you today is a church from the church. This is their history. And, that's difficult to process when you're probably in it. But also I think it's powerful because it shows you in action, here is the stuff that I'm concerned about. This is what's up. Is this Christian? I'm not. I always even say, if you want to be a magician, if you want to be an occultist, if you want to be whatever it is you want to be, that's your decision. That's not what I want for my life. But here's the thing. If they're lying to people and saying this is Christian and it's not, we have a big problem. And so now I'm your ex-girlfriend who you lied to, Mormon Church, and I'm kind of ruthless. So it's not the people, it's the church, top level. So, yeah.
Oh, well said. Thank you for clarifying that. That's really well said. Yep.
I just feel so bad for people. And as I'm going to talk just a little as I share my screen, I'll probably go into the 1,000 tunnel thing here in a second, and then I'll fix it. But I just feel bad because people think all the time it's something that I have a problem with, that I'm mad at the church, that I got excommunicated. No, none of the above. I have to tell people currently I am still documented on the church roles. I've never been excommunicated. I can't believe that they haven't excommunicated me, quite frankly. I was waiting for them to do it. They never did it. And I thought, okay, I guess now I'm going to have to get serious and take my own name off. But yeah, that's what's up. So, but when we look at families or people in general, or like say even the Bible, right? How does it start out? And this person begat, like we get into genealogies of human beings and creation and all this stuff, right? After creation, obviously. And we start looking at people's families because it matters. It matters how you're raised. It matters what you've learned. All these things matter to who you are as a human. And so I do this with Joseph Smith. Very, very rarely do I see people do this. And so the story and narrative is he's a farm boy from New York, Palmyra area, burned over district. He has not had a formal education. He could not read or write well, and he was largely just completely uneducated. Completely untrue. Also that they were poor and not very important people, basically. I think they were poor for certain reasons, and we'll get to that. But I don't think they started out that way. And you guys are in Detroit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you some stuff about, Joseph's mother's side was actually the person that founded a place in Michigan, oddly enough. So these people are not nobodies. Okay. Pontiac, Michigan is where he founded. Do you know who Onondaigua, I think is how she says her name. But it's like a high school there, and she was a Native American that was very important there. And that
would have been Pontiac Central High School.
Right. And
Most
so
likely, yeah.
This was Joseph Smith's uncle's wife. Okay. So these are not nobodies, and they are, very tied into certain things. And this slide here shows it, because this is talking about Samuel Smith, which would have been his grandfather. So I want you to know they called him Captain Samuel Smith because back then it wasn't given out like the same way, and it's kind of honorary, but he fought in the war. He was a selectman, and he hailed from somewhere called Topsfield, Massachusetts, okay, which is by Salem now. There's a reason they obfuscate this, because you have to understand that the LDS community is very patriotic. They wouldn't want to hide this unless there was some reason. Well, there's a reason, because the grandpa senior, okay, Samuel Smith, there's another one. This is junior. He actually had an issue and was involved in the Inquisition. And he was actually responsible basically for the hanging of Mary Duty, who was one of the witches of Salem that were hung. And so, he was born in 1666. For anybody that wants to fact check me, that's totally fine. I'm great with that. But this stuff is real. And when we look at this, you have to understand his son goes on to be a selectman as well. And he helps organize the Boston Tea Party. That's not a nobody. Okay. So we have to look at history to say, is this true? Is this actually what the narrative is, or is it not? Right. And if it's not, why isn't it? Right. And so it's interesting. The other part about him being uneducated is Hyrum Smith is his brother who died with him the day he was killed, or I think that was a grand conspiracy, but anyways, the day he died. And his brother actually went to a place called Moor's Academy. And a lot of people will say, well, that was the Indian school. That's what they called it. Well, Dartmouth College is attached to the Moor's Indian school, which isn't to teach Indians back then. That's what they called them. That's why I'm using those terms. So please, nobody get upset.
Oh, no. You just, okay. You're good. You're good. You're good.
And so we have to call it like back how they called it back then. So this whole situation is this is a part of Dartmouth, and his distant cousin is working there as the first professor of this college, of Dartmouth College. Okay. And he has his own theology, and they're learning this there, and they're actually learning to be like preachers to the Native Americans, not for them. This is to train them up as basically like priests or preachers or whatever you want to call it. They're just not as uneducated as they want you to think. This distant cousin is also the rare books owner. They talk about the Chronicon, which is very strange. That's a rare book that most people don't even know about. It goes missing, funny enough, when the Smiths leave town. They were well taken care of there. They were actually put up on the campus and lived in the housing for like the overseers of the school. And also this man that was there that started the medical school for this at Dartmouth, Dr. Nathan Smith, you notice the same surname there. Of course, they'll say, oh, no, he's not related. They are. They're distantly related cousins, as are a lot of really first people of that area, not because they're just poor peasants that came here. Look, Joseph Smith is related to 7 different people from the Mayflower.
Yeah.
7, like the Mayflower Society. There's something about these people that is very important with Rosicrucianism on the Mayflower and a lot of other things that people need to understand. Those families that came over, the first families as they call them, super important. Okay. So it's just not what they say. But Dr. Nathan Smith did save Joseph's leg, and he went on to be ran out of town as a gravedigger, and he went to start a medical school somewhere else. Yale. That's very important.
Skull and bones.
Right. We're going to get into that too.
Yeah.
And his mother too, funny enough, his mom talks about all these things in this book she wrote. And they don't love that got out there. In fact, Brigham Young kind of freaked out when she wrote this book. And he ordered all the copies to be burned. This is Lucy Mack Smith. For her surname was Mack before she got married. And that's the people, Macktown. This is who I'm talking about. This is her brother. Stephen Mack was the one that went on to found Pontiac, and his son was the one that married the Native American. Okay. So these people did not just come from nothing, nor were they nothing. They were pretty important. And so
Heidi,
it's funny. Yeah.
Heidi, did you know that Jesse and I are from the Pontiac area?
I had no idea.
Yeah, I grew up there.
That's far out. We both grew up right by there, right there. Jesse grew up.
So you know exactly
Pontiac.
We know what I'm telling, like Macktown or wherever, all these things.
Well, Heidi, Chief Pontiac is. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, sorry.
Well, this is very anecdotal. There's no proof, and I just got to share it with Heidi to see if it resonates with her. So when I was a punk rock teenager, I moved to another town, and because it was more welcoming to people with spiky hair and stuff. And this is in the 80s. And there was this homeless woman that I used to talk to that lived in a station wagon, and she was brilliant and she was interesting to talk to. And randomly I said, because I had left the Waterford Pontiac area, I had made a remark about how people there are kind of mean spirited. And she goes, that's because it's cursed Indian land. I mean, she didn't even bat an eye. She had an answer for it. I just thrown that out there. If that has,
do you know why?
Do
you know why?
Talk to us. We're listening. We're all ears.
Okay. So this is something I haven't covered before in a lot of my podcasts, because I'm going to be doing a Mormonism history podcast very soon. It'll launch. And I've been finding all this stuff, and I thought this is really odd because this guy goes on to marry. Okay. And he marries into the Native Americans, and he cannot profit really and buy land or anything unless it's under his kids. Okay. So he does that. And then the daughter dies. I'm not saying he did anything. Okay. But like, it's interesting. I don't know. Very shortly after she dies, and he inherits the rest, which he's a white man. And so, yes, I'm assuming that would be part of what they're talking about and referring to. And also, he bought a ton of land with money given to him because of his Native American children once reparations started happening and different stuff like that. So I'm sure they didn't look upon that very well, how he obtained that. Yeah, that's an interesting and missing ingredient to that story. Yeah, because it seems like Pontiac is a principality. It's a very negative place with a lot of brokenness, and it's impoverished. I have a brother that died in a crummy hospital there. I mean, there's something about Pontiac.
And then this one woman, 30 some years ago tells me that it was cursed Indian land. So
Yes.
that's,
So that would
wow.
be my guess is what happened there. And, it's strange to me that they just love to obfuscate that side as well as her parents. So Lucy Mack Smith comes from this line where her mother's name is Lydia Gates. Okay. So we have a whole problem here, right? And people are going to say, no, she's not related because I Googled it and I know everything. Like, no, you don't, because the first thing you'll come up with is this genealogical relationship, a good thing or not? Well, she comes from Deacon Daniel Gates. Well, Bill Gates himself will tell you that he's from the line of the deacons. They call them the deacons because there were so many that became preachers at that time. And you can't ever find it if you just put in Bill. But if you put in the great-great-grandfather, Joseph Stanton Gates, okay, you will hit pay dirt. 1806 is the birth date, so you guys can check this. He's a direct descendant of Deacon Daniel Gates, who is also the actual father of Joseph Smith's mother. What's going on? Right.
Wow.
So you can't really hide it forever because they are so inundated with their genealogy and everything that they do there. So you can eventually hit pay dirt with most of the time going through an uncle or some other person because they're never going to just give you that on AI. When he's related to 7 people on the Mayflower, and I'm telling you, the Mayflower was not what people think it was. It was a Rosicrucian. I mean, sure, there's probably some people that were there to fill in the seats, like the Porch Masons, right? But this was like a Rosicrucian escape plan, basically, to come here, and they're trying to build the new Atlantis here. They're Bacon talks about this. A lot of esoteric books talk about this. People don't want to hear that. Okay, they just don't. But that is what was going on. And I found this one book because I buy all these old books, even though I've been accused of not being able to barely read and I'm just pretty and nobody watches me otherwise, which just ticks me off. There's a couple people that are in the community for actually the ex-Mormons, which shocks me, that they come for you all because you read the same book as them and now it's plagiarism. I'm like, no, it's a book and it's old and the author is gone. So yeah, I don't know. But these books are great. They'll tell you the answers. Since I am in Utah, I'm able to go buy them at these used bookstores that are super old. Like we're talking 1900s, like late 1800 books. And they'll say weird things in there. One time I was reading, like, in the Smiths were hiding something from the Queen. And I thought, what? Why are they? That was before I knew about this whole Rosicrucian thing, right? I was like, why does that matter? And I talked to someone named David Livingstone. Have you heard of him before?
Livingstone. That sounds familiar to me.
He wrote the series Order Abkeo. And so great author, amazing person to talk with. Highly recommend you guys, get in touch with him. But he's the one that shed the light. And I think his Order Abkeo is like 6 or 7 books that are very big, but they are worth it. He deep dives like you can't believe. Our history is hidden here. We don't know anything here. We're like a people with amnesia. Okay. And they don't want us to remember any of it. So not only the Mormons, but just in general. But of course, I was a Mormon, so that's who I talk about. But when we bring these things up and we bring up different pieces of his life, we have to look at some of the things they're saying at this time. And this was one of the big ones for me that kind of broke open a little piece of the puzzle for me. So I'm going to read just a tiny bit of this. And this comes from the Church History Library in Salt Lake City. So I'm not making this. You guys can go check this out. So his mom wrote, "Let not my reader suppose that because I shall pursue another topic for a season, that we stopped our labor and win it trying to win the faculty of a brack, drawing magic circles or soothsaying to the neglect of all kinds of business." She's not saying they don't do it. She's saying they're not doing it all the time, and that's not all they're doing. Even though they were well known for being treasure hunters, even though we're going to get to the fact that Joseph Smith was actually prosecuted as one, we know that, they were using folk magic. The church will admit to that one. They'll say, okay. Yeah, it's folk magic. Look away, move on. That's not all it was. And when we start looking at things, you can see it better. But, faculty of Abrac, we get into Abraxas, we get into Freemasonry, we get into these other things that she shouldn't really know about if she's not doing anything,
Wow,
interesting
look at that.
enough.
Okay. That's crazy. Look at
Right.
that.
Right. This is another one. These are people, and I'm not saying, look, some of this isn't quote unquote nefarious, okay? But this does come from witchcraft books. So we have to weigh it, right? Like, is this Christianity or not? Okay, then. And what kind of Christianity, if therefore it is? And so, yeah, I dare say they align more with Gnosticism, which if you want to do whatever you want to do, you can do that. But I don't think it's fair that people don't know. So that's why I speak. I am your tainted ex-girlfriend. I'm mad. So we're going to get into the narrative. And this is the actual story for the Mormon church, is that Joseph Smith was a 14-year-old boy. This first vision has 5 or 6 first visions. So just for people to know that, you can look at that. It changes a lot. I mean, one of them says he saw one personage. One of them says it was an angel. Eventually we get to the narrative of this was actually God and his son, Jesus Christ, because the Mormons do not believe at all in a Trinity. So they believe in 3 separate entities, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. They call it a ghost. And so they do believe there's a mother in heaven, though, and they don't talk about her because she's too holy and they won't tell you anything about her. Well, that's important for later. And I do have a tiny cold, so occasionally I'm going to stop just to...
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, whenever you want to break or whatever, just, put your hand up.
No, you'll just hear me mute for a second. So, anyways, when he does this, he is overcome by a fit of darkness. And I used to say he passed out, but then people got mad because they say, no, this is when God showed up to save him. However you want to say it, he did mention a fit of darkness. And then God, the Father, and the Son showed up. So they told him not to join any church. He was actually asking which church he should join. And they said none of them because they're all corrupt. And so, which I mean, yeah, still. But sorry if I offend anybody. That's just for me. That's my thoughts, right? No. Right. And anybody can, have a camaraderie or whatever, but absolute power always corrupts. Absolutely. So it just depends on what level we're at.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of infiltration going on here in the churches. I mean, we know about all that stuff. Yeah, that's why it's like you said in the opening of this here. It's like don't the religion is not the answer. God is the answer. It fits right perfectly with that.
And the funny thing is like in the Mormon church, I, as a very sheltered, naive Mormon girl that is a multi-generational, back to the beginning of Mormonism, Mormon, right? I didn't know what a Mason, like a Freemason was. I knew what a Mason jar was. I didn't know what a Freemason was. And I was wearing their symbols on my chest, which we'll get to eventually here on the garments. And I don't think that's fair. I think that if I would have known I was swearing a death oath, like, I don't know that I would have done that. In fact, I'm certain that I probably wouldn't have. But then there's that part where you want to make your family happy, and I don't know. So I'll give him a little bit there. But Joseph, nevertheless, is young at this point, and he's seeing these apparitions. And also after that, he goes home and they send him an angel, and this angel's name is Moroni, because they told him to go home and wait for further instructions. So Moroni is an angel. So he says, all right, we got to talk about what an angel is. So this man lived once upon the earth. In fact, he was a now white Native American, but now he's very white and delightsome. That's what the Mormons like to say. And so not now, back before. Yeah. And so, he's this white guy that's dead, and he's talking to him, but he's an angel. But I don't think that's an angel, because we're not going to be like the angels, right? We'll be similar to them. We're not going to be an angel, even when we die. That's not how that works. And he specifically says this is an angel and this is a dead guy. So when we start looking into the occult, we know that, things pop up like Dr. John Dee. He was one of the things that very much woke me up to this stuff. And I went, wait a minute, why does this sound the same as, I don't know, Jehovah's Witness, an angel came and then the guy wrote a book and then, okay, they changed a bunch of things and it became oppressive. And Joseph Smith talked to an angel and then wrote a book, and then polygamy and child brides and stuff. And then, Aleister Crowley, that's a fun one. He didn't talk to an angel, but he did talk to AWAS, right? And then he wrote a book and it became a religion, and we see the pattern, and L. Ron Hubbard and the Babylon working. So we see this same thing play out time and time again. And that's concerning for me because we're not supposed to add or take away. And so, I don't know.
I just was asking you guys, what Muhammad, was it the same way? Did he see?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
And what happened?
Muhammad claims that it was, I think he said it was the archangel Gabriel that came to him and told him to rewrite the Bible, essentially.
Yep.
Okay.
Gabriel. And in the Jehovah's Witnesses, I believe it was Michael, I'm not 100, but I'm pretty sure. And that's what they say. And look, angels are real. They're militant and they deliver messages and they do what God says, but not fallen angels. And John Dee found a way to talk to things, but later he says, they told me they were angels, but they lie. And every time we see this weird transfer of something you wouldn't do for God, right? Like John Dee's like, hey, what would be great if you would swap some wives here? That'd be a great deal. I think God would like that. And at some point you got to go, nah, I don't know about that one. The Muslim thing and the 8-year-old child bride, and everybody wants to argue about it. And I don't want to argue about it, but regardless, they did polygamy. And that's also a little strange. Sometimes we see these things. Well, not sometimes, almost every time we see this trade, right? We see this trade happen. And anytime you see that, that's like a strange trade. You have to sit back and go, wait a minute, why were the Babylon workings happening? Because they were trading a sexual thing for some information, and polygamy, some information. And I'll get to how Joseph really got those plates. But yeah, it's very interesting. And also we know that when we as human beings channel things here to this earth, a lot of times we don't get what we asked for, and they're full of it. So Steiner, occultists will tell you this. Crowley told everybody AWAS lied later. There's a lot of things, not just from religious people, but literally from the occult people themselves. They'll tell you hey, that's a bad plan. Don't talk to them. They're liars. So, are they? Probably.
Heidi, you just mentioned Steiner. Are you talking about Rudolf Steiner?
I am.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Man, if there's time, I'd like to get into that a little bit because there's a lot of things questions that I have about that
no
part
problem.
of this. Okay, but
I do a multiple part series on Steiner, and I really had to deep dive into the occult to learn all these things. And the scary thing is I was prompted for that, and I remember thinking, are you insane? I just remember praying about it and thinking, I don't want to. This seems nuts. And am I getting tricked? Am I going to have to get a child bride? No, I'm just kidding. So, it makes you start thinking am I going down the wrong path is my point there. And I stopped and just waited, and I prayed a lot, and I talked to my mom, and my mom said, heck no, that's crazy. And I thought, right, it is crazy. And then I kept feeling the prompt and I'm like, what do I do with this? So the first book I read was this book right here that was occultic. And this is all about Enochian magic and John Dee. And this is a great book. Jason Luv does a really good job here.
Wow. Enochian magic. Whoa, I need to read that. Yeah.
So it opened my eyes and I went, oh, okay, I understand now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dang.
So we have Joseph here. He's talking to something, right? An interdimensional spirit is my gathering, because he cannot be an angel. He lived on the earth. That's not how it works. Okay. And so we know for sure it wasn't that. And they're on top of all the Mormon temple. Well, Now there's like half of them, I guess. They're not doing it on all of them anymore. But if you notice the trumpet and if you get into masonry, and we won't deep dive that right now, but all these things are very interesting when we pull them apart. And Joseph Smith was a top level mason. He was a master mason. His father was a mason, but it was off and on how good he was in with the masons because he had an alcohol problem. Hyrum, the brother,
Hyrum, yeah,
right?
we talked about him earlier.
Yeah, like Hyrum Abiff. They changed his name spelling. It used to be spelled the same way as the Freemasonic Hyrum, and then they changed his name spelling funny enough later. So I'm like, why'd you do that? That's interesting. But yeah, so clearly this is a dialed in family. They knew some things, and we're going to show that. We already showed one that his mom was. So for years and years, this is how I was presented. Like you guys said, the funny big glasses, right? The spectacles. That this was how the Mormons translated these, plates, right? Well, this isn't exactly the story anymore. And I remember when the story came out, and I thought that's a lie because where the first place I saw it? It came out on, what do you call it? South Park, right? And this is the story, right? And you go, no, I remember saying like, that is not true. And I was an ex-Mormon and I was still like, no, that's not true. So then they come out and they're like, guess what, guys? I'm the prophet of the church. He was at the time. He passed away now. Russell M. Nelson got the hat out of the cold storage because they do have one just like the Vatican underneath the temple. They have all kinds of tunnels here. Very interesting stuff. So he got that out and did a photo op, and I went, what is happening? Like, what? That was part of what lit my fire a little bit to be like, no, this is crazy. Like, they can't be doing stuff like this because we know what else was in the hat, right? The rock, right? And we also know that Rusty there, Russell M. Nelson, was part of the University of Utah's Skull and Bone Society. Funny enough, they're one of the only schools ever, not one of, they are the only school ever that has a Skull and Bones Society that actually was set up and like sanctioned specifically by Yale Skull and Bones, which you guys probably already know, because you've had Ben on, and he's great and he explains all this. And so, I mean, but the families, there was a literal family member that came and set this up. And it's not like, oh, we're just going to copy them and we think it's a great idea. No, this was sanctioned by former alma mater people. And so, they're like, it's an honor society and that's all it is. Okay, well, that's not. But, Masons do Masony things. So, and we know this and we can see it time and time again, but it certainly wasn't the story that I was told with a rock and a hat. No way. I mean, that would have been a lot harder to swallow, right?
Yeah. Outcast, have you heard of the rock and the hat and all that stuff? The symbolism and everything?
I know a bit, but I don't know this aspect of it. This is new to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit to me too. I mean, I've seen it before, but I never really understood the meaning behind it or what they were trying to do with this.
So we're gonna tell you, because if you read Dr. John Dee, he speaks about how he made a whole table to communicate with the angels and how he did that. And so he talks about how you channel, and so did Nostradamus, right? You block out all the light and you look into something that is either completely dark or reflective, like the water. John Dee had an obsidian mirror. And so he didn't need a rock too, because the mirror was the rock. It's obsidian.
Okay.
So we've got these things that we're seeing, and we know that they existed because there are testimonies from neighbors. They're in a court case. They're affidavits at a time where people are being hung for witchcraft. I don't know that you would just come out and be like, well, guess what? This is what's up. And then hope and pray that you weren't implicated too, because you're telling the story. Like, that's usually what happened, in Salem. So his neighbor Willard Chase in these affidavits speaks about how Joseph went and got the plates, and he didn't get them right away. It took years and years and years, and he had to go back every single year on the fall equinox. Okay, he would go out before it turned over to the fall equinox, and he would stay out till after it would turn over, and he would do this thing called a quarter moon ceremony. And he would go out and dressed all in black, which is why the neighbor knew about it, because he needed to borrow his black horse and something else of his. And I can't remember. It was something black. It might have been his coat, like a black coat, but he was talking all about it in these affidavits. Okay. And so they're very concerning when we read them, and we go, wait, what's going on here? This sounds kind of spooky, right? Like in the middle of the night on the fall equinox, and this thing's telling you to bring certain people. And then he tries to go one time, and something like a toad, this is his story, not mine. Don't come for me. Something like a toad turns into a man and punches him in the face and says you can't have them, because he said he had an impure thought of like selling them because they were supposedly gold. And so, all right, we've got a toad. Now, toads are notorious for being a witch's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we look at that story and we think, that's not the best story to be out there. And then in the 90s, there was this big deal with this guy named Mark Hoffman. Okay. And he gets in trouble for something called the Salamander Papers. And there's a book about it, and he supposedly killed a bunch of people. And I don't know for sure. Part of me feels like they used him to change the narrative, because a salamander is not forged by the fire. And actually it's a symbol for the Knights Templar, which they're very aligned with. So I almost feel like they kind of made him change some things for them, or was paid to change some things for them. There was a lot of money exchanged. He was a rare documents guy. And then he was also really, really good at forging these. He was a forger. The reason why I give Mark Hoffman so much maybe is because after he got arrested, he sung like a canary about a lot of things and said he was innocent. And then he tried to supposedly unalive himself and laid on his arm for 12 hours in Mack security, where no one's checking on him for 12 hours. Okay, great story. And it was so bad. Yeah, right. And it was so bad that he was permanently paralyzed, like his arm that he forged the documents with. He'll never write again. So, certain things just take their own shape, and that's a statement to me. But whatever, you can't prove it.
Yeah, it's like magic in a box here. Wow.
Right. And so it's very interesting. And we know that there was also a time where they said you need to bring your brother Alvin with you, which was the oldest son, which is super important in magic. And, he died suddenly before Joseph could go and get the things. Okay. And everybody was super upset about this. And then we get this newspaper article, which is real, and people can check this out. And if you guys doubt me, you can definitely look this up, where I'm going to synopsis this. The family says, basically, we're going to dig him up because you guys said we did, and we're going to show you we didn't. So there. Oh, you're going to dig him up. Okay. They ran this 6 times in the newspaper.
1824. Wow.
Yes. And everybody jokes that he had a hand in Mormonism. But, we always have to look at the Faustian side of things. Very interesting that he's the oldest son. Also very interesting that who goes in his stead, remember he can't go, was his new wife, Emma. And Emma becomes pregnant shortly after this. And Emma gives birth to a baby boy for their first child. And he is born severely deformed. And then they named him the dead brother's name. And he died.
Oh, man.
Just saying.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on there, Outcast.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got all that, and some of it's conjecture and some of it's not. But certainly we do know that the rock existed. Funny enough, it was Willard Chase's rock, and he didn't want to give it back. So It's kind of a joke. Mormonism is built upon a stolen rock. There were more than one. This was Sally Chase's rock, which was Willard Chase's sister. She was kind of into that. She actually was in the one that said they should sacrifice a human to appease the spirit. And instead said a black sheep will do. And they did. They killed dogs and sheep and his whole thing. And they want to definitely hide that stuff. You're never going to, well, you can find it, but it's a little harder. So a refiner's fire for that one on the book. And then this is an artist's rendition of the white seer stone, which they say the brown one was the best magic one. They haven't even ever let anyone take a picture of this one. My guess, 10 out of 10. The one they won't let anybody take a picture of or see, probably that one.
That's the one right there. Wow.
Yeah, that's my guess, just fun facts. So I just think that it's really important for people to see this stuff. And this comes from the affidavit that we spoke about from the neighbor. And he explains how they would go search for treasure. And it sounds pretty not ominous until you see this picture.
Here we go. Look at that.
This is what they would do. And Joseph would be the seer. And the virgin scryer, which he would, scry and actually talk to the spirits and protect them and whatever. And this stuff is all going on. And this is the neighbor's recounting of this during this trial that Joseph goes through. So yeah, we've got some problems here. This is not folk magic so much anymore. These symbols led me to a different kind of magic, and his Jupiter talisman did as well. And people will say, oh, you stole that from me, blah, blah. It's not rocket science. You just follow the trail. Like, it's silly. And of course it sounds word for word. It's from a book, but whatever. People can read the books too. They're there for everybody. And if you talk about it, I won't say you're a plagiarist.
The glass looker. Look at
whatever.
That. Wow.
Yes. So this is his real ticket from his court case, and there's affidavits and everything online so that people can go see this for themselves. But this is something that happened. And so here's the proof, and people can look that up. And then we get into these magical relics. We've already spoken about 2 of the stones. We're going to get into some other things that are juicier. So if you thought it was good already, we're not even there yet. So Joseph Smith had this Jupiter talisman, and he kept it with him always. In fact, the day he died, he did not have his magic underwear on, but he did have this Jupiter talisman in his pocket. And this all fit astrologically with Joseph. And I wanted to know what this was because I didn't know. And so I did a reverse lookup, just took a picture of this and put it in. And this book came up. And so this is how I got the knowledge, right? I wanted to know what was going on here. And then this is the match. All right. So this is Solomonic magic. And it wasn't hard to find. Yeah.
I'll catch
you. Just put that, Jupiter talisman in, boop, like it came right up, right? The keys of Solomon. So we have to understand, that this is not the same as folk magic.
What's that star?
Well, do you know who the Seixas family is? Seixas. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
Very important. So the Seixas family were one of the first Jewish people to come here and actually be preaching. And of course they were, the money Jews, not the Jews. Like he was half and half, but the mom was not. She was full. And so when we're talking about all of this stuff, you have to step back and go, this is not just about like the Jesus Jews. Okay. I think most people know now, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, they're learning right now.
Yeah. Okay. So we know that they have different ideals and alignments. And so when we look at this stuff, we have to know a part of that was, like you said, Kabbalah. And this was something that Joseph, who couldn't read or write, remember, he's just like completely an idiot, even though his grandma was a school teacher and his dad was a school teacher and his brother went to Dartmouth, but he didn't know anything. So he was sick and he was at home because he got a really bad case of typhoid and he almost lost his leg. So he got osteomyelitis in his bone and it was awful. And they had to drain all these tons of liquid out. I mean, it was bad. And so he's not going to go to school. Like he almost died. So Yeah, I'm pretty sure your brother and your mom and your grandma that all know all the things like might help you learn at home. And what would they bring you? A book, if you're bored. And they're like, no, he only had access to the Bible. I'm like, his cousin was the rare book stealer. What are you talking about? But yeah, who else was sick as a child and was super smart because of it? JFK. So when we look at these kind of people, they're like a sponge almost, because I was that same way. I was super sick as a child and I read all the time and I just wanted to learn everything because I was stuck in a bed. And so it changes the way your mind develops. You would probably be outside just playing and having fun, but if you're stuck, you're stuck. So yeah, whatever. He definitely knew some things that he shouldn't have known. Clearly, he had this on him. And I want to bring this up because remember what I said about angels, and God can send angels and that's okay. But that's not what this is. This says, this defendeth and protecteth, that's fine, those who invoke. That is such a powerful statement. People will blow this off and say, he had this in his pocket because of folk magic to protect him because people were cursing him. No, that's not what this says. Those who invoke means you are causing the spirits to come. And when they appear, you will show this to them and they will obey. Okay. So we have a whole different narrative, right?
Sounds like he's throwing some spells on some fellers out there.
Mm-hmm. Much like the ring.
And trying to control demons.
Controlling demons, all that. Wow.
Much like, King Solomon.
Yeah,
Solomonic magic.
I see it says underneath there, the third pentacle of Jupiter, in case you guys want to look that up. That's what she's talking about here.
And it's super easy because, like I said, the whole way I got the information, I'm kind of scholarly now. I'm not a scholar, but I just put the Jupiter Talisman in reverse lookup, boom, right there. And then I happened to find Dr. Justin Sledge. He does a show named Esoteric. I've had him on. He's amazing. And he spoke to me about this, and he is Jewish and his wife is a rabbi, and he knows some things. He's actually a doctor of esoterics, which you can't even get in America. You had to go elsewhere. So he knows some stuff. And yeah, he totally had a whole series on it. And I deep dove that. And I just learned as much as I could because I wanted to know what this was. I didn't know. And so when we find out all these different things, and then we put them together with other things like this, the Smith family ceremonial magic dagger. This isn't a tame. And that's much easier to say than that huge thing up there. But it has the seal and intelligence of Mars engraven upon it. Okay. It makes a man potent in war and judgment and all this stuff. But here's the thing. That was his dad's sign. It was his dad's, a tame. They try to blame it on the brother. It doesn't match his astrological anything. But the point being, where does it come from? Francis Barrett's the Magus. We know this because of the way that they were inscribing things. Okay. And the Sykes family was nice enough to come educate poor, silly, unreading Joseph in how to write and read Hebrew. Because that's the thing that I would definitely do if I was uneducated and couldn't read or write English. I would definitely start trying to learn Hebrew, which is terribly hard. Wow. So that makes zero sense. And the Sykes family was actually the guy that gave the prayer the first Thanksgiving ever. Super linked into the government, super linked into the president at that time. These people are not Joe Schmoes. It's very weird. I can't explain to you how important that family is because it would take 3 episodes. It's crazy. There's no way that he should know these people unless you're important to, right? They're all part of these secret societies, the Mayflower Society. And also he's a Freemason, and also he's connected in. This isn't just lower level. He actually got his Master Mason. He went to get it. He went to do whatever that day, and they rose him to a Master Mason the next day. Day.
That means he rolled in there with some pull, big time behind him.
Yep. And some information. because they were testing people back then. So it was important to them. And the copy shows like the seal of Mars. Like I said, this all aligns with his father's signs. And also it brings up something at the bottom here, and it says intelligence of Mars, because people say, well, they're just talking about God and different things. No, anytime you see the word intelligence in this context, you know that that is a lower level demon. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know why that's on a Christian anything, because it's not. So, yeah.
So that dagger right there, where did that begin? I think I missed that, but it's been passed down, handed down.
It's the father's, but they try to blame it. They try to blame all of this collection on his brother who died with him at the same time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't match the brother. One of them that I'm going to show you in just a second here matches Joseph. This one matches for his father. I mean, they're not just Hyrums. So they're the families. And I think that's important to know. So like I said, the Magus, we know some of this came from specifically because of how there's an error in the Magus and it's different than anything else. So Dan Vogel goes over this and he goes over it really well about why we would think that it comes from there, but it's different in the other books. So we know that they had these books that they weren't supposed to have. And also I like to bring up that Masonry was a thing then, and he was a part of the York Rite. And then everybody goes, well, he was just a Scottish Rite, and that's why he was magic-y in the end. Okay, well, if you look at the time frames, Scottish Rite Masonry had only been organized officially for not very long at this point. I think around 50, maybe 100 years. That's like overseas. Getting here to America, like getting out, seems a little bit of a stretch. And I really think it was closer to 50 years. So Martinism, however, had been around a very long time. And, people go back and forth on this. Part of the creator break off anyway of Martinism is Cagliostro, who Aleister Crowley said he had come back as a reincarnation of. Saint Martin was not necessarily evil, but like it got split. He originally was involved in like the angelic process and summoning, and they would summon twice a year. Well, they say they still do on the fall equinox and the spring equinoxes when the veil is thin and you can go talk to these spirits and summon them. And so, like I said, if you want to magic it up, go magic it up, but don't lie and say it's Christianity. That's all. It's just not right.
Oh man, there's so many. Okay, thoughts on this picture right here. There's so many different people that did that, or groups or cults or whatever you want to call them, that are into this kind of veiled stuff. I mean,
this is still real to this day. Martinism,
and it
there are
still
people
goes on
in the community. In the community, Ike Baker is a self-proclaimed Martinist. And I mean, I don't care. Like, I still will talk to anybody. Like, I don't care about that. I know who I am and what I want to do, but I don't have a beef with them because they're open about what they're doing. I have a beef with the church because they're not, and we can't force people. I would love for everybody to see the truth and light, but like at the end of the day, we can only present information and that's all. And I still will love you anyways. Like, I'm not trying to, hurt anybody. I just want them to know these things. So like I said, I do a couple episodes on the Martinist order. It is, the unknown heirs of the Christian Kabbalistic arts. And so people might want to go check that out when we're talking about all this stuff, right? You've mentioned it before. And I found it a little bit funny that the Keys of Solomon was digitized by BYU. So I just put that in there as a little laugh. But this is one of the parchments that are involved with the whole Smith family heirlooms, magical heirlooms. And this one here is protection rituals, different things on here. But the thing about this whole picture is, I don't care if they're just saying God a whole bunch of times. This is not, we don't do this, So at the least nefarious, this is a Gnostic Christian. At the most nefarious, this is something completely else. And either way, we're talking about magic, or you wouldn't be doing this. Like, there would be no need, you would just pray.
Yeah, I don't. There's nothing there that I can understand, or even a lot of hieroglyphics things, a lot of
Maltese
symbolism.
cross is
Yeah, and I see
here.
the crosses. I see the star and the upside down cross down
This
there.
particular one is a specific angel he's calling down called Jubanlades, and that one is actually, I believe, one of the Masonic passwords. It's a pentagram. There's just a lot of things. So when we get into this, we know this book this is not normal Christianity. Okay.
Wow.
Let alone when we get into this one. And this one is even more so. And people will say, yeah, but this is Raphael and this is an angel. And I'm like, right. But also don't forget what Dr. John Dee said about lying angels, So we see Jupiter. This is all decoded. I'm going to zoom in for just a minute. So when people rewind this, they can actually look all of this up. But the 4 books down at the bottom on this key are really important because I want people to see this. Not one of those books are Christian. They're not.
You guys should, get your phone out and screenshot that so you can look that up later, those 4 books.
Yes. So it's Magus by Francis Barrett, The Discovery of Witchcraft by Reginald Scott. We've got Occult Science by Ebenezer Sibley. And then we've got Sloan's MS 3824, Liber Officium Spiritum. So what I'm saying is I'm proving to people, because remember, we're doing this to help those that want to see, or maybe even they don't want to see, but at least help them know what's happening here in these early years. So
these, you said early years. I mean, look at these. Some of these books, that one goes out to 1583. That's Sloan MS. Wow.
And Dr. John Dee is critical in all of this study. And when we see these open things like this, these are calls that are seals where they force things to do things. But this is actually kind of open in a way. It's not like a barricade around it, right? And that's because there's probably a working relationship with this angel, because then you don't have to bind. And so there's a lot going on here. And,
hang on. Can you go back one more? Sorry, I just wanted to point something out there. For some reason, I'm looking at that thing on top. That I'll call it a poster, right? It looks like some sort of an old graffiti or something. Does that vibe come out to you, Outcast, when you see that?
Graffiti is an interesting word, but it's fascinating because, well, I mean, I'm just hung up on the main point of Heidi's message so far, which is, if you're going to practice Gnosticism and Gnosis and all that stuff, that's like you said, I guess that's fine. That's your choice. But when you're masquerading it and you're burying it and you're presenting it as Christianity, that's highly suspect. And these symbols are so occultic, and obviously occultic. So, and then when you, those old books you're noticing, Jesse, in that previous slide, that makes me just think about, like, they're tapping into occult books. The thing that gets me about occultism is this, and this is obvious, I'm sure, but I just got to say it anyways for our listeners. The occult, you're trying to gain favor from spirits that are fallen angels, probably, and or the spirits of the Nephilim, and you are asking for what you want, what you think you need. As Christians, we are called to seek out the will of God in our lives. And that's where the stuff is so dangerous, is people don't realize that what they want isn't necessarily what's best, what God wants for you. And it can get, it just becomes this endless cycle of asking. And then you become indebted to these spirits who further that which is what they want. They want you to be in debt with them. God is not a debtor like that. He gives graciously to those who love him. And sometimes the answer is no, because he wants to build up perseverance and strengthen you. But these people want to negate all that. They want to go around. They want a shortcut to victory, and they do gain a lot of power in our culture, in our world. But this is not the goal. We're supposed to be focused on the unseen, not what is seen. So, not to waylay off of your point, Jesse, about this looking like graffiti. Yeah, I guess it does. It's just fascinating. All the symbology just indicates the secrets of secret societies, and they wove it into a religion where good people are wrapped up in this, and they don't know they're being led astray in the long run.
we have a, I hear you, Outcast. That's good. I also have to throw this in there from where we go. One over on Rumble says some of those symbols are just astrology, nothing nefarious.
I'm not arguing that whatsoever, but here's the thing. When we are getting them from occult books, we have to ask ourselves, A, the narrative, is it wrong because he couldn't read or write English? So, I mean, the narrative they're pushing is wrong. And so, first of all, if you're going to change it, then you're hiding. Second of all, if you are doing things and getting this information to use to control things, anytime we get into control, we know it's not from God. So I'm not saying that, like I said, you can decode this at the bottom. Right. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this is not Christianity typically. Yeah. And if it is Christianity, it's Gnostic Christianity, which is not what that church says they are. So that's the point. Not that I'm deeming it evil. It's not like that.
Yep. I just a good point here too. This is from Barbarian over on YouTube. It says, is it just me, or doesn't it the Bible say that somewhere that even all things the adversary uses are aspects of what the power of God is, and it will be revealed that Christ uses it too, just correctly? So that's another kind of question to throw in the mix.
Sure. But we as men or women, like we are called to have faith in God, and to not take the control for ourselves. And what these two specifically were on that previous page. And again, it's saying he is invoking spirits. So when we get into invoking, I'm sorry, that is nefarious. You cannot do that. That is actually, you are piercing veils that are not meant to be pierced at this time. Maybe they used to do that. Maybe, whatever back before, but once Jesus hung everything on the cross, this stuff needed to stop because it opens up for a big mess. And clearly it's from a book of witchcraft here. So I get the points. I'm not saying that it's nefarious, just occult, which means hidden, but also the church is calling it folk magic. And my biggest point here is this is Solomonic magic. This is being practiced. He is invoking the spirits because he's worried about it and he's protecting himself, which is why almost none of that was like nefarious. People can zoom in and look. It's like, God, protect me, protect me this, protect me that, Raphael, come, like all these things. But like, why do you have to do that? Because you're worried, because you did some stuff and now things might see and they're after you a little bit. You probably should have not done that. And if you did do it, you probably should have stopped that now. So, we know he's treasure digging. We know he's doing it for his own accord and not for God. That's not good. Like, come on, and we have to be fair on it. We have to be truthful. And here's in
summoning spirits, if you don't know who the spirits are, that is, for all you know, it's necromancy, which is strictly forbidden in the Bible. FYI, just gotta say that.
Absolutely. And this is some of the actual, differences, like what it says on here, and they're not nefarious. I would not say that at all, but I will say this is continuously asking, for him to be protected because he invoked. So, it is what it is. I mean, that's this one alone led me to Dr. John D., who highly regretted invoking. So if anybody wants to look at that, he says as one of the top fathers of occultism not to do it. Even though he made it. Saint Martin, same thing for Martinism. He got halfway through that whole business and he's like pulled back and said, you know what? We should just have this in our heart. We shouldn't do this because it's scary. And the other guy was like, nah, bro, we're doing it. And so they split apart. and that was what happened there and I'm not saying Saint Martin was evil at all. I actually think he was trying to pull back and say, I'm scared now. What scared him? That has to be questioned. So when we look at this stuff, we know that, definitely this parchment that they say was not Joseph's was, because if you look at this particular little sign at the bottom, it talks about if it's worn around the neck, it's to protect him from a putrid infection and sudden death. And I told you he got sick and he had a putrid infection and he lived, so clearly the only one that aligns with out of the family members is Joseph Smith. So that's kind of my point, is that no, they were definitely the whole families. Ooh, sorry about that. My computer went crazy. But we have to look at the whole thing and just pull it apart piece by piece, because I can't even get Mormons to look at this and say it was his, so I'm kind of targeting an audience there. And to your point, exactly what I think. Magic, necromancy, Mormon magic, necromancy. And we're going to get into some of their practices that they do. And for people that don't know, they do something called baptisms for the dead. And they baptize people post-death. And they probably baptized all your posterity and all my posterity and all, they've done all the presidents and all the famous people that have died and all their moms and Obama's mom. And my favorite one is this one. Let's see.
Done them.
Yeah, they already did Hitler. That was fun. And, Anne Frank and all the people that died for everything they believe in. And, then the Jewish people said, stop it now. And they said, okay, we will. And then they didn't stop it really. But this is real. This is his actual record, genealogy record, that he was baptized, endowed, which means he got his sacred rights, like to wear the temple garments and go through the temple and everything for Adolf Hitler. Okay. Some things are just interesting. That's for sure. But this is I did these many times, held up by the oxen, the golden oxen. You go as a young, usually virginal or, chaste child, like at least the age of 12. Usually the kids go do this as like an activity. So are you guys still with me? Okay.
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
Those. That's a. Boy, it almost looks like a real photo, or like a real ox. But it's the gold. Are those golden? What are they? All look like statues.
Golden. So they say that they're represent the lost tribes of Israel. You also do not just get baptized for the person just by name. You are the proxy. You are that person. This gets dangerous. I say, okay. I'm saying from my own perspective, and I'll always say what is my thoughts and what is reality. This is my thoughts. Okay. When you are given the name that day, they literally say, Beth Smith is your name today. Beth Smith, I now baptize you, blah, blah, the whole thing. And they do it as you are they call it the proxy. This is their words, not mine. So I get a little concerned about some things we know about. You've already mentioned the Nephilim, right? And fallen spirits and different things here we have to be a little bit concerned about. Okay. They'll say, no, we're just doing it so that everybody can have baptism available to them, because they believe kind of people are up in like a purgatory type situation waiting for you to do this. Okay. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time with that, because I really don't know what they're doing and what they're binding with things I've shown you already. It's concerning to me. So,
yeah. And if I may comment too, I mean, when the Israelites were led out of Egypt, they, even though that they had manna from heaven and they had all these miracles before them, they started worshiping the golden calf. And I see these golden cows here. And that is exactly what, God called them out for. I mean, he punished them for that. So these golden cows are screaming at me right now.
And I will come to the Mormon Church's defense here just for one thing. They're not always gold. They used to be. Sometimes now they're white and sometimes they're gold. But I, like you, saw the same thing once I was out enough to see it, right? Why did you choose that color when you know the story behind it? It seems a little weird, Mm-hmm. And they get smarter as the years go on and they stop that. But, it's almost an exact replica of King Solomon's. They had this same thing. So I don't know. I did a King Solomon series and Robbie talks a lot about this, and he's great and explains a lot of things about that. But it's very similar. Zoroastrianism, that King Solomon, like it all plays in. And we have to know that this stuff is way older than anybody thinks.
Mm-hmm.
And so the symbolism was the way they communicated, right? After their language was messed up, which is the whole reason why Freemasonry still does that to this day.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We shall know them by their fruits and by their symbols, which we'll get into, but I don't think their symbols so far are great.
Nope. And we
That's
keep seeing
just
them
my
and finding
opinion.
them too. We keep seeing those clues show up on these events that happen all over around, in modern day right now. It's crazy.
Oh, 100%. And so for symbols, I'm going to pull this one while we're talking about it. So these are some symbols that are on just the Salt Lake City temple. Okay. It's one of the older temples, not the oldest. We've got the pentagram. We've got the Big Dipper. For anybody that knows some things about that, you'll know why that fits in, but they'll say, no, it's about just knowing your direction. But there's dual explanations for everything on here. We've got sunstones, we've got moonstones, we've got all kinds of things here. Also, Joseph Smith was said to have, there were people living on the moon, 10-foot tall Quakers, I believe is what he said. And
Wow.
Brigham Young said there were people living on the sun. That sounds crazy until you start studying Rosicrucianism and you go, oh. And so what's allegory and symbolism and speech is also important. And people don't recognize it if they're not initiated. So this whole thing is hidden it right in plain sight. And look, like I've said, I've got no beef with you magicians or masons or anything. Look, at least people know they're going to be hoodwinked, right? But the Mormons never really give you the answers unless you're part of the elect. And so you just keep doing the things and and it's not good, because I believe, this is my own belief, that they're probably harnessing that energy. And we know that happens. Okay. And we're going to talk about how I felt when I did these things. So ultimately we have to look at it all. And some of it, it's not nefarious. Like, it doesn't look nefarious, but everything has dual meaning, including even down to these dumb little windows. Like, look, phallus, circle. What do you think that is? I mean, come on.
Represents the male, female. Yep.
And there used to be, okay, so just like in Washington, D.C., like these are very phallic. Then out front of it, there was a fountain, of course there was, of living waters. That's a little on the nose. I think they might have took it out because of that in itself.
Oh, man.
But yeah, and it would explode like psh, a couple times a day. I mean, I think that, they were like, cut it out.
It matches that intro, that video that I played right in the beginning of the show, where the baby coming through the birth canal was, in the waters and okay. Yes.
It's awesome. Important. It's important.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Heidi, can you enlighten us all on the Big Dipper? Relevance?
So the Big Dipper is specific, some tie it back to the cult of the Magi. And so you guys can check that out. But the guy that actually put it on, like the first one, he said it was just so that everybody would know how to find their way home. And so it's not nefarious per se, but I'm just saying it's interesting. It's tied to some cults. Okay. So, I mean, we're not even supposed to practice astrology as Mormons. They took that away a long time ago. Basically, after Joseph Smith died, there was no more woo-woo, no more. It was killed off by Brigham Young, and we'll get there. But it's very interesting to me that they have these kind of symbols on there. Like, look at this. This is, this is on the Nauvoo temple. I mean, come on, and one is pointing up, but one is pointing down. And here's the thing. If you get into all of this study and you understand and know a little bit about it, you can invoke and pull things down, and then you can send things up or down. Okay. So it gets a little weird is all. And, I just think that isn't very Christian. We're going to just put it there. I go a little bit deeper into some things, but I try to keep it surface level because it's a lot. Pretend you're a Mormon and you just barely saw all this stuff. Like, this would be so overwhelming because I know because it was for me. And I just went, whoa, what is happening here? Let alone, we haven't even got into the temple ceremony yet. Okay. So now we are. And the green is very significant. also the fig leaf apron is very significant.
Can you blow up on that a bit?
Yeah.
Just a little. Yeah, right there. Whoop, back a little, back there. Right there. That's it.
Okay.
Wow.
So they do something called the True Order of Prayer here, and they're in a prayer circle, which should look pretty familiar to people that maybe practice other things, especially Wiccan, different things like that. I'm not coming for you. Don't worry. Like, I'm just saying. Also very Masonic, raising your hand to the square. They used to do a death oath where and it's funny because now you see it in the MMA, right? Like, they'll come and slice my throat for telling you all this stuff because I'm telling. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they don't do that one anymore. Don't worry. They took that out about 1990, I believe, because there was a horrific murder case. And I think that had a lot to do with it because there was some people that went a little far with their Mormonism teachings, and the Lafferty brothers actually almost decapitated like their brother's baby and slit the wife's throat because she didn't want to live polygamy. So
Wow.
about that same time, the Masons also took it out. So I've heard. I'm not a Mason, and I guess I was an honorary one back in the day, but yeah, that's what I've heard. So secret handshakes. Yes, of course. If you don't know the secret handshakes, you cannot go to heaven to pass the angels and sentinels that you will meet along the way. And the very last thing we say as one of the keys to go through the veil is this weird health in the navel marrow. Let me read it because it's just a lot, and it's specifically a Wiccan statement. So we have to remember that Joseph Smith's family was largely Scottish and Irish. They've proven that by his DNA, actually, and the Celtic stuff is there. I mean, it's making a presence. Okay. So it says, health in the navel, marrow in the bones, strength in the loins and in the sinews, power in the priesthood be upon me and upon all my posterity. Let's see, I lost my place. So I think, through all generations of time and throughout all eternity. So these are tokens, which should be also interesting. And this is the last and final one right before you go through the veil, which is like curtains and everything. Like they mimic a real veil. And Steiner talks about this stuff too. And, I just don't feel like that screams Christian to me. Like, that's fine. If you're a Gnostic Christian, you can do whatever you want. Like, I'm hopeful that you won't, because you'll have faith in God just to lead you through and pray and all the things. And I know for me, when I got away from this and started breaking certain things off of me, I feel that I did with help, obviously, in a long period of time. I never was more sick, fat, or almost close to death than I was at this time of my life. That's just my experience. I'm not saying maybe it was the best time of your life, but for me, that's what it was. I got cancer, almost died. It was serious. And when I was there for the first time, all I wanted to do was run out of the room. And everybody's born with that instinct. Well, I guess some people aren't, because some people are psychopaths and stuff, but most people are born with a right and wrong button. Okay. When something feels good and when something feels not as good.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely did not feel like I was supposed to be there. I needed to get out of there. It was panic button all the whole time I was there. And the only thing that kept me there was my family sitting right next to me, who would have been absolutely disgusted, devastated, and angry with me if I had left that day, which they were later. So
is this the ceremony that I heard of that when the women have to go through it, don't they strip them nude first in a room and then put the veil and
the guys too,
the garment?
The men too. Oh, you're naked.
This is the same thing. Okay. All right.
That's the initiatory. So now it's changed. So of course, because they change everything, that gets weird. So it used to be, and my great grandma told me when I cried that day, because I was already super upset about the poncho and it's open and you're naked and they're touching you, but not in a sexual way. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to
right.
make sure that people know. They're doing blessings like right here above or like on your thigh or whatever, but it's not a sexual thing.
Okay.
But you're still very freaked out. Like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? Right. It's not comfortable. Nope. And they did that like that when I went through. Now, apparently, because so many people had a hard time with this, they wear a baptism suit. So they're not naked anymore. And my great grandma said, I don't know what you're crying about. I was naked in a bathtub. So I looked it up and it was true. I thought that is crazy. And I talked to a Mason before that said, as it should be. So I don't know. I haven't been to their ceremony, but
I wonder what that would symbolize, why that practice would go on. I mean, is something new that to you, Outcast, or have you heard this before too?
It's with anointing oil. So they're cleaning them. They'll tell, like they sort of tell you, but they don't tell you everything, but they say that it's kind of like, you're being anointed and cleansed before you get your new garments, before you get your undergarments. So, and there's prayers and there's laying on of hands, even by a woman, which is not done in the Mormon church. And I was actually really curious I was like, why is this happening? If that's not like, how could she do it? She's not a guy. And they were like, oh, it's different when you're in the temple. And then you don't have to veil your faces anymore if you're a woman. They change things a lot all the time. But if this is like the actual ceremony from God, like remember Joseph Smith talked to God, would you really change it? Like the polygamists don't. The fundamentalists, they do not. They don't change anything. And so their books are really good about all this stuff. But like I said, there's changes and different things that they do to make people feel more comfortable. So, and this is on your marriage. So those ceremonies that I showed you there, it's like a 2-hour long thing, and it's an Adam and Eve story. And it's like, Adam lives in the premortal world before your souls all live up there with God, and you're all spirit babies waiting to jump in a body. And, this gets into how we can become a god, how then men will go on to get their own planet. Of course, women are just there. You get the priesthood only through your husband. And then you just are eternally pregnant and having little spirit babies forever. But that's your crowning glory. And so, yeah, you're married for time and all eternity is the wordage. And that's why you see this tunnel.
That contradicts scripture.
Absolutely, it does. And so does the premortal. All of what I just said does, but it also aligns extremely well with a lot of Gnostic teachings and, a different Adam, and the Kabbalistic teachings. It really does, and people maybe get mad because I'm spilling the beans, but that's just truth, and the Masonic teachings, it all aligns very well with their teachings. And the first time you go through the temple, you go for yourself. And every single time you go after that, which is a lot, okay, they want you to go all the time. And after that, you're going as a dead person, not just for a dead person, as a dead person. So, and it gets into like Adam Kadmon. Do you guys know about that kind of stuff?
No.
Okay, so it's super Gnostic-y, and it gets into that basically to help people understand like there's a different Adam, there's a different all of us, and we existed beforehand. And I like this story, I do, but also it's not biblical. So you're right. It's like, oh, well, what do you do with this? And so maybe they know the truth and we're all just lost ourselves. Like that's what they would say. But I don't feel that way.
I can see so many opportunities tonight for a return for a deep dive into certain things. Because right now you're just laying it all out and hitting us with a ton of bricks on some of the stuff. So,
and I do like a deep dive on like bloodlines and histories that way, and also the Mormon Mafia, which is super interesting, and they're a corporation.
Oh, this is excellent.
All then when you get married, and there are two mirrors facing each other so that it creates this, and it always is green at the end, which is very symbolic of Venus. And it gets really into, people get mad when you talk about this stuff because it's very Gnostic in nature and it's sacred to them. And I understand that, but this is a deception. Okay.
Whenever I see mirrors, like, can you go back to that? Okay,
I'm going to show you. Yeah. I want to show you this layout right here where it shows, see, this is how they are. And you kneel over the altar And then you look into your mirror and he looks into his mirror, and you're promising each other to be married for time and all eternity. And so that's how, and then the tunnel, like it kind of looks like, and people talk about this. Zachary King talks about this. He talked not about this specific thing, but about mirror magic. We know there's such a thing. Like there's a lot.
There's a portal right there. It's creating a portal when you put two mirrors together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so if by chance, let's just play if by chance those symbols on the outside of the temple, right, bringing down and locking down spirits are trapping anything, and then you're getting dead people's names, are you attaching them to yourself? I dare say yes, but like people will say that that's crazy, but okay, then let it be crazy.
Yeah.
But I think there's some validity to that with what I have studied, you know? So we know about soul ties, we know about spirit ties. And then when they give you these garments, these are your magic Mormon underwear. So people say, but the compass and the square are over the nipples, openings in your body. The ruler sideways is over your umbilicus, openings in the body. The other last one is on the right knee, and it's a slash across, like a ruler. And I dare say there's some probably hidden ones in the underwear stitching, but I can't prove that. So
yeah, I bet. Yep. See that outcast?
You're never
you need a
to
pair
take
of drawers
them
like
off.
that.
Yeah, and you're never to take them off. And my great grandma was super crazy about this and would take a bath with her garment, one leg in and one arm in, and hang them out over the tub. And then when she was all washed up and ready to get abilities, right? But they say this is to protect you. So I will just lay out what they say it's for.
Yeah, I wonder if this has anything to do with the Shroud of Turin.
The old Jewish people wore a habit much like the really old ones. I think that's my next picture. See these ones here? Mm-hmm. They're very similar to the older Jewish ones. And you can see the cords hang out of their clothes in the back. And I think they still do that in the, some of them. So it's like fundamental.
From my understanding, the Jewish undershirt is a four-cornered shirt, and the tassels are to prove that they're wearing it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. They do it too. Yeah. And so similar, weird a little bit that they have similarities. And then these marks used to be made. So back in the day that you were kneeling, they would slash with a knife and you would go sew these up. But the women were like, yeah, we're not going to have scars on our breasts and stuff. So they cut that out and they started pre-marking them. And so, people would have slashes on their knees, actual knee. And so I just remember this. I am wearing this on my chest, and I didn't know what a square and compass, like I knew what it was for geometry, but not for like masonry. I never knew what a mason was until I got out. That's how prepared you are for this.
One of the earliest things I learned as a young Christian was that the Bible speaks out against secret societies in general. So that the fact that you've got a denomination that uses secret society symbolism on the garment that you wear closest to your body is highly suspect. It's strange. It's like how they're obviously intertwined, and it's because of you. We know this now because Joseph Smith was a 33rd degree Mason, and he was going to take that Kabbalah mysticism that's from the Nimrod and the Babylonians and introduce it into a Christian type faith covertly.
Yeah. Yep. And he actually just considered a master Mason. I just want to clarify because they never say it's Scottish Rite. And that's why I postulate that it's Martinism. Also, fun fact, every time I bring up Martinism to like anybody that's like Mormon, it's definitely not that. And the Martinists do the same thing. No. I'm like, that makes me even think it really is.
Don't look over here. Yeah. Don't look over here.
Yeah, they're a magical practicing order and they don't really hide that. So, I kind of think, you mean you can talk to interdimensional beings on the fall equinox, just like Joseph did when he got the plates? How interesting. I mean, little on the nose there. But, I just want people to know they do not prepare you for this stuff. Like when you are going through, they give you the very, very basics and that's it. And I do like to bring up, the old gods and their homage. This is Typhon, right? And this is from a Crowley ceremony, the Typhonian one. And this is the Mormon one. Look at the thumb.
Doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. This is chaos magic here, and so like it's renamed that from Crowley, which he's after the fact. But I will tell you a fun fact. Crowley actually mentions Joseph Smith by name in Moonchild, and he mentions him in the notes at the bottom and the footnotes of that book. So
giving him credit.
Yeah, well, he just talks about that this is who I'm speaking about. And he always said he just admired Joseph Smith. Well, yeah, he's a master magician. And I don't think there's any doubt to that. I think he did a few things wrong, or maybe he'd still be around today. Who knows? But not right now. Yeah. But like he would have made it older, and it's interesting to me, even the symbols that they themselves will put out there. I mean, we have to question when your symbol for your Melchizedek priesthood is the same sigil as Mammon. Let me find it. Like, I have questions then, like, please tell me why this is your symbol for the Melchizedek priesthood. Why is it on your temple? Why? I mean, the only thing that's missing is the center here. Okay. Mm-hmm. And instead there's the circle. And so, we're the beehive state. We're the state of Deseret. Here's the beehive here. There's a lot that goes into this with the Merovingians and all kinds of things that we're not going to spiral. It'll go crazy if we do that. But I will tell people my bloodline is weird. I don't say this to be like, oh, that's so cool. No, it just doesn't make any sense. Why my family that literally go up to Marie Antoinette and the Medicis and all these really important people, why did they come here to be poor farmers? That doesn't really make any sense, because it was a mission. Like I've said, on that whole Mayflower business and the Mayflower Society and the Rosicrucians and, all this stuff, it matters, and people can say it doesn't, and that's silly, but whatever you want to believe, like, that's okay. You can do that. But I do want to, I'm almost done here. I do want to show you just a couple more things about, Joseph Smith after he passed away. Him and his brother Hyrum, he did die and made the widow's sign for Mason help, before he was either pushed out the window, fell out the window, whatever, shot and fell over, who knows. But the story is he was, killed and fell out the window. They dug him up. They like to dig a lot of people up. They really like this necromancy business. And then his rotting corpse, had been there for a while. It wasn't like the day after or anything. It was a bit. And where he had decomposed all over, they made canes out of the wood of that coffin, and then they put him in a different thing, and then they reburied them. And so these canes are called, they made a cult of the black sticks, where they said they would pay back the United States of America for this. And they sought to cause like chaos and for America to go down because of this. And that they swore this back in the day. And they used to do things like bleeding the beast, anything they could do to hurt like regular people, because they were mad and you're just goyim to them. So, they say they're the only true church in the whole world. If you're not a part of it, then, they don't care. I mean, that's just, they act like they do, but yeah, you're not going to be saved. So it doesn't matter how good you are.
Yeah. The coffin cane. Look at that knob.
Yes. And the knob is full of their hair. So they cut the hair off of their heads and they put that in the top of this knob. And so
crazy.
They said these are super powerful, and that when they needed it, these things would be very important at the end of the world. So they're oak, which if anybody's read The Golden Bough, I highly recommend you read The Golden Bough. Esoteric wise, if you want to understand a lot of things in the killing of the king and JFK, it's like a whole thing, but it's very important. I feel that book is really important. And so there's breakdowns of it out there by Dr. Luke, and he does a whole Golden Bough series. So I would highly recommend that. If you put it in Dr. Luke and the Golden Bough, it'll come up. He's great. So yeah. check that out. But they don't deny that this has happened. So Oak is also super interesting with the Irish, and it's just a whole thing. It's like and people will say, well, you're reaching for everything. I'm like, okay, but you can't deny that it doesn't mean something. Like, I don't know, like look at the facts, and then, to close out, we'll just show you guys a couple fun slides that I like to show people, behind every really powerful person always seems to be a Mormon. So this is Elon Musk, and his number one money guy is Jared Burchell. Jared Burchell is a Mormon. Howard Hughes and Bill Gay. Bill Gay was not only a Mormon, but he was definitely linked up with the three-letter agencies, President Nixon, the assassination of RFK. And he was actually killed by a Mormon, Thane Eugene Caesar. And RFK Jr. will be happy to tell you that he does. He talks all about it, about Thane Eugene Caesar killing his father. And he was a Mormon. He also worked for Skunkworks. Skunkworks developed by Ben Rich, who was a Mormon. Yep. So people want to tell me like I'm kind of nutty. Like I'm like, okay, whatever. Their genealogical vault is only supposed to be for genealogy files. If you look here at the security we have, there also is armed guards with semi-automatic guns that will shoot you if you try to go there.
Yeah, you can scroll up.
Yep. Tunnels and everything.
There we go. Underground tunnels with storing all that information, you guys.
Or is it just information, or is it?
No, it's everything. yeah, it could be all kinds of stuff.
They blew the whole side of a mountain. So just for people to see, this is the mountain that this is.
Do you know where this is at? What town this is in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's right here in, should be Draper, Utah, about 60 miles from me in every direction. There's Hill Air Force Base. There is the NSA headquarters, the top. There's the IRS. There's a CIA, FBI, and I think that's it.
It's all out there, outcast, away from everybody. Yep.
Yes.
Wow.
Very aligned. I'm going to shut this. So I just think it's very interesting when we see this kind of stuff, right? That you can't just throw it in the garbage and say, oh, well, they're dead or this or that. Like it's bleeding over into television. Like the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Heather Gay, she now is out speaking. Her father was in the FBI. He was huge. He was like the real Indiana Jones of the FBI, recovering what? Artifacts. Super important.
Heidi, my wife and daughter wanted me to ask you about that show tonight. They were like, I wonder if she knows about that.
And also the other one, the Real, or what is it? Mormon Wives show, something Mormon.
Yeah,
Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Secret Lives. That's the one they wanted me to ask you about. Okay.
Well, she's a Levitt. One of those girls is a Levitt who is very suspect in a lot of things. In fact, so bad, he took off and bought a castle in Scotland and moved there because he went on a news live thing, and somebody asked him something, but it wasn't the question he thought he heard. And he blurts out, "I am not a cannibal."
Wonder why he said that.
Nobody asked you, bro.
Yeah.
So he took off
himself. Yeah. Outcast, go ahead. I got a few questions, but Outcast, go ahead.
Yeah.
Did you want to get back to your housewives question for your daughter and your wife, Jesse? Did I cut that?
Oh, no. They were just want to know if Heidi knew about it. Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Heidi, real weird question. I'm just on a mission of my own. Have you come across any data, since you're talking about those early families on the Mayflower and those types of families, any information or data come up about the Carr or the Kerr clan from Scotland?
Oh, I don't know about the Kirkland. I hyper focus in, but I could definitely check that out. I mean, I just know that Joseph is related to at least 7 passengers who arrived on the Mayflower, and he was eligible for membership in the General Society of Mayflower. So,
okay. The reason I bring it up is in my family line, which I think that there are generational curses linked to. The Kerrs, the chief of the clan Kerr was my 16th great grandfather going back to 1440. and then later, subsequent generations married into the Rothschilds, and they were some of the very first people to come over to the Americas. And Caleb Carr, who was the very first governor of Rhode Island before it was the United States. This was been in the 1600s. It was the plantations of Rhode Island, it was called at the time. After being governor for 1 year, drowned. And his aunt, who was a Rothschild who came over with him, has extensive memoirs that you can read online. And she, there's just a question mark there about them. And he was obviously born into privilege if he was the first governor. Why were they sent here to a desolate place? Because the memoirs talk about how there was nothing when they got here. All the people they expected to see, they found their graves. It's really compelling to me. I have more questions than I have answers, but I just thought maybe I'd throw that out there. There's something up.
John D is involved in that. And just so you know, he was her, like, Elizabeth's like main guy to help her decide some things. He was never actually part of the court, but he was integral on that and helping her with like astrology and her coronation date. And so I would really recommend this book, and so that you can see some of the connects there, because they do talk a little bit about that. Or you can even Google about his, influence on them coming over. And also they came over, and somebody, I think you put it up there, they, we changed over to Christianity, and we have a whole bunch of people. And so we know the Mormons were there too. And they were told to go there and take Native American brides and, quote, buy up their children and marry their wives and make our brothers and sisters more white and delightsome. So that's real. Yeah. So, and the Rothschilds actually bailed the church out at one point. I'm here.
Heidi, all right, let's just keep rolling. I don't know if we can see each other.
I'm here.
Heidi, all right, let's just keep rolling. I don't know if we can see each other. It says streaming stop, but let's just keep going.
Uh-oh. I'm
okay.
here. Should I refresh?
Hold on.
Should I come back in, maybe?
Yeah. No, I don't know what it is. So they took us out and it restarted.
Oh, my gosh.
It's crazy.
Maybe the Kirkland is more of a hot topic than we realize.
That Mayflower Society. And the next thing I was going to say and just pulled up, I wonder if they're going to get pissed. But yeah.
Something's happening here. Yes, something is going on, you guys. I don't know what it is, but I'm getting all kinds of crazy messages all over the place. Listen, let's try to wrap this up as quick as we can. But because I don't want to lose anything, but I want to.
It says we're still maybe live on here.
It restarted. We're down to we started back in, and I'm at 55 seconds back in. So something happened.
I do want to say this really quick, because you mentioned the Navy, and I know they're gonna love this one. So I want to talk about this guy that was he's a family member of Joseph Smith through the Mack side, Rear Admiral Stephen G. Mack, a native of Silver Springs, Maryland. He's continued the family tradition of high-level military service. And in 2025, he held the following: Commander of Submarines of NATO and Director of Maritime Operations for Naval Forces Europe and Africa. He was actually known for associations with the Macktown as well. So, that's in Illinois, sorry. But still. Yeah. And Chicago's hugely important. We have Chicago, trained and schooled prophet Dallin H. Oaks now. And we also have the new Pope from Chicago as well. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. So.
Wow.
It's wild.
Yeah. All lined. And they let the Mormon Church in 2019 build their temple right down the street from the Vatican. Just so people know.
Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't they? It's crazy.
They never have before.
Yeah, we did have some questions here from Julie.
Absolutely.
And you saw that, but now when that went away, it just took out my took out the YouTube.
Julie, if you're there. Yeah. Oh, is it gone now?
It is, yeah. But here's a new one from Operation GCD. Says, perhaps it was my Society of Cincinnati Mormon question.
There you go. JJ, it's your fault.
So the other question that Outcast was trying to save from Mick, do you know who Luke Nichols is? From the Outdoor Boys channel.
No.
Okay.
I'd love to talk to anybody.
Oh yeah, no, just want to throw that out there. But you've covered so many different things that I want to deep dive later. We're going to ask you to come back, is what I'm saying.
No problem. Yeah, and maybe you guys can come on too. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
I just feel like we're scratching the surface. You're way down the surface, but I
know my rabbit hole is. I got
good.
told the other day I was surface level and needed to do more research with somebody else, and I thought, "Are you serious right now?"
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But it's okay. I get it. I guess
That's
I'm a girl.
funny.
I'm a woman in a man's world. Yes.
Yeah. There is a question, Outcast. I think it was for you, also from YouTube. Operation.
JJ, Operation GCD is great. He works with me all the time.
Oh, all right. Did the Clan Kerr have any officers in Washington's Army and American Revolution?
Yeah, we were addressing that.
Okay.
I do. My family is allowed to, if I went through the proper process, I could be a son of the Revolution because I had a relative who was in the Navy. We did mention that earlier. I don't know whether he's an officer or not. I don't know. I'm not sure. But that would have been, yes, on the Kerr side, I believe. Yes, the answer is yes. But officer, not sure.
Okay.
But hey, Heidi, I just got to say, you gave us an incredible overarching educational on this topic. I feel like I know way more than I did coming in. I mean,
and you wanted to probably.
yeah, I did. But like Jesse said, I know we're just scratching the surface, but we gave the listeners a lot to chew on and a lot of things that they can go pursue on their own. This Julie,
yep.
She seems to be of the viewpoint that Joseph Smith was a hero that was smeared by the modern church that wanted to do away with it. What's your take on that? Is there any validity to that?
I do think that Joseph Smith was smeared, and I do think that Joseph Smith was persecuted by his own people unbeknownst to him. I think that Brigham Young had a more nefarious agenda because I think that Joseph Smith was a magician, and I know he was practicing Kabbalistic magic because of everything that I've showed you and his association with the Sykes family, and all the things there. But I will at least give him the benefit of the doubt that I think he truly believed in what he was doing and what he said. I think he wasn't high on mushroom. Well, maybe, but like that wasn't all. Right. Like, I think he pierced the veil and spoke to something just like a lot of these other people did. Okay. We know that this has happened before because the Babylon workings, because of, Crowley and all these things. So I think he really did. And I think that he said the quiet part out loud, and it was really bad for him because he gave a speech and it was, not good that they really were upset about, and he died shortly after that. And so we have to know he was also he ran for president, so like Joseph Smith went and talked to the president about reparations. Like, he's not a quiet human being, and so this was getting him in trouble, and we see that clearly. So yes, I think Brigham Young had him done in. Yes, I think that Brigham Young brought in a lot of communistic Order of Enoch things. And when you read some of the people he brought in, like the very first principal of BYU, Brigham Young University, and we find out it's Carl Maser, Maeser, Peter Till's great uncle. Yes, I said that. Peter Till's great uncle. Wow. And we know that he trained underneath known communists, right underneath Marx himself. So I mean, we have to understand that there's
birds of a feather.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot. That's a heavy one. And there's proof. I have the book from 1927 that was actually, so people that have been like, oh, you just saw that on the internet. No, I got the book. I bought the book.
And you think about it, if there was just one or two links to these types of things, it would be cause for alarm enough. But we're talking about endless links of families intersecting with the mysticism, the Kabbalic mysticism, and all that stuff. It's just too much. You can't. It's not a bunch of coincidences. It can't not be.
No, and actually, the religious aspect of this branched out in way more than Mormonism. So after Joseph died, this went everywhere. He didn't leave a successor per se, other than his 9-year-old son. So there was a huge issue, and people just went, psh, and this is why you'll see Wisconsin actually have a whole bunch, because they have the Beaver King over there, who had his own form of, the Illuminati. He literally calls it the Illuminati, like the Strangites call it that. Like, you have to be wondering what is going on when people are branching off and starting spiritualism just for the Balfour Declaration and actually dedicated right on the Mount of Olives, that ground for the church that has actual legal holding when you're doing that back then, when you are claiming a place. And he did it before the others did. So what does that mean? You know, it's a lot. They're going to Russia. They're talking to Rothschilds. They're going to Canada. Like, you're right. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Crazy. Scary. Amazing. So deep. You know, one more thing I wanted to ask you. There is a movie. I don't know. It was a miniseries, a short miniseries called American Primeval.
Yes.
Have you seen that? And have you seen that, Outcast?
Did a show.
There was a crazy battle with the Indians, and I believe Brigham Young, right? Is that, I don't know, you know how movies are, but is there is it not all
symbolism?
fake? Yeah, a lot of symbolism and everything there, but too, was it accurate, do you think?
Yes, the Mormon Massacre really did happen on September 11th, just for people that would like to know that. And what did they do? They dressed up as what? Native Americans. And what did they do at the Boston Tea Party with his great-great-grandpa? Well, they dressed up as Native Americans and they dumped the tea in the harbor. Well, they did the same thing at this massacre, and they found out these people were going to be crossing without the permission of the Mormons on their land. And there was a lot going on. So I get that they wanted to protect themselves, right? But they also knew they were had all this money and they were like super rich. And they actually made sure that Native Americans came with them, because the one thing that will keep you, other than being a big mouth like me, apostatizing and telling the secrets, you will go to outer darkness. And the other reason is if you take the life of an innocent child under the age of 8. Okay. So you can do whatever you want to them. You can beat them, hurt them, do bad, the bad pizza things to them. You can do any of that, but you cannot kill them dead. And so they brought the Native Americans in to do that part just in case. And then the kids they did want to keep, they kept, and they would do super cruel things like wear the mother's dress in front of them and be like, oh, this is my new dress. And like the kids would just burst into tears. And they just stole these people's kids until they really had to fight to get them back. And they finally eventually gave them back and said sorry, but definitely never gave back any of that money or anything else. So they got the second anointing, which means they've made their place sure on earth. So there's one more step above the regular temple that I told you about. And I never did this, but it says you literally are guaranteeing your place in heaven on earth, and you meet Jesus Christ that day. And you wash, the apostles come in and wash your feet and all kinds of stuff. It used to be your wife with her hair. And that's why the polygamous women don't cut their hair, because they're supposed to wash their husband's feet.
Yeah. Golly.
So it's big. It's big. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I suggest you guys check that out. American Primeval. I don't know what channel or station or what network that was on, but Outcast, if you haven't seen it, it's very,
we did a show on
a year ago.
Too.
Okay. All right. Very graphic, very, I mean, it's hard hitting. Go check it out.
The love story's not true. The rest is all true.
They've always got to put something like that in there, don't they? Oh, listen, Heidi. Yeah, we've only scratched the surface. Outcast, give Heidi some final words before she has to go, and then we'll talk her on out. Go ahead, brother.
Heidi, I got to say, I'm kind of ashamed to admit how little I knew. Like, I thought I knew more than the average bear about the Mormon, but you gave me a better understanding of the history and where the history and the mystery all come from. And it is fascinating. I'm going to be pondering this for a while. So thank you for broadening my understanding of a complicated topic. Thank you for giving us so many little leads to chase down on our own. You're doing great work here, and we really appreciate you. So thank you for coming on and spending time with us. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was my pleasure. And for those out there that think I'm attacking or whatever, I just really urge you guys to do your own research, look at things with, an unveiled eye, and really remember that God tells us we don't need to do all this stuff anymore. Like, even if it is biblical, even if it's not nefarious, even like all those arguments are valid. Okay. But we aren't supposed to do that and control and have this in our hands. Like if he says, you don't even think like I think, so don't even go there. And I think he means it, right? Like, it's hung on the cross. Yeah, it's hung on the cross.
Oh, excellent. Well, a great way to bring that down tonight there, Heidi. And for you, as far as your podcast goes, in Unfiltered Rise Podcast, you guys go check that out. Any final things you want to tell the people where to go to reach you and watch your work?
Sure. I have a Patreon where I drop 2 more shows at least every month, just because I want to do something extra and never cut my episodes. That's how I do it. You can find me here on YouTube only about once a week-ish, because I've had some issues here, so I got a little nervous. And I am mostly on Spotify, uncensored, and I'm also there about 2 to 3 times a week. And I've started fixing my shows because I have a lot of guests on. Maybe you're there to learn all about Mormonism and you're like, oh my gosh, why are we talking about this? So they're more categorized now so that everybody can find that, and hopefully that will help everybody. But that is where you'll find the majority of my content. And so I hope that helps.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, listen, Heidi, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight. It was awesome. I'm glad you made some time for us here. I know it's the last show in December, but we're going to hook up again in 2026. We're going to go deeper down the rabbit hole, Outcast, is what I'm saying. So you guys check out Heidi Luv and the Unfiltered Rise podcast. All right, Heidi, you stay dangerous, all right?
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out. All right, good night. Oh, man, Outcast, there it is. I learned a whole lot of stuff that, I had questions about a lot of stuff. I thought I knew quite a bit of that, the Mormon stuff, but...
me too.
Reset my whole, mindset now.